reasons. Passing judgment on folks generally just makes you less approachable. There are good folks who like gyrating naked people but are awkward socially and have lots of money. Creepy is still creepy. Considerate is still considerate. Only difference is I'm not wearing pants. Ex-stripper here. Of course I encountered all different types, but I am here to mention one type in particular, my favorite. There were a lot of customers who were lonely, or didn't have anyone to talk to who would really listen to them. They figured out that they could come in and pay for company. I would sit at the table with one of my regulars for a few hours and just talk. I made a point of showing that I valued them as a person and was genuinely interested in their conversation. He knew that he was taking up my time, and every so often would hand me another bill. I didn't pity them, I respected them for figuring out a way to engage with other humans and satisfy their need for connection. Ex-stripper. The guys that came in and knew the deal were great. Tip the girl on stage, get a lap dance, be polite. The worst were the guys that thought they were smarter than the strippers or that they could somehow game us. Like, one guy I remember went on a whole rant about how smart he was because he could tell it was all fake and the girls weren't really attracted to the men. Yeah dude, you're a genius. Or when they think they're funny by degrading the women. It's not funny and you're the one that looks bad. Honestly, for the most part I didn't think about the guys much at all. I was on autopilot most of the time and didn't judge them any more than thinking who looks interested in a private dance or who is a douchebag I wanted to avoid. Generally depends on what kind of customer that person is really. The best kind is the dude who understands that it is all a game. They tip well, they are sociable and polite, may even be regulars with certain girls and are never a problem. The entire club staff loves guys like this. The ones that the dancers hate? The I don't pay for dances guy who thinks that line will somehow make him desirable for dancers? Captain Save-A-Ho, his trademark line goes something like you are too beautiful / smart / amazing to be doing this, if you get with me you can leave this behind. The pimps that go around asking the girls if they want to make some real money are real pieces of shit as well. Then there was the ones that I really had a personal dislike for, the dudes who would try and wait in the parking lot at the end of the night because Cinnamon and I really had a connection, you know? She told me to wait for her. No she didn't buddy, if Cinnamon told you that, she did so knowing that I would be kicking everybody out of the parking lot before the dancers left for the evening. The strip club industry is a weird place. Source, longtime strip club bouncer. You get your share of creeps but mostly where I worked, a long time ago, a lot of young groups of guys just looking for a good time. Every once in a while you have someone who has too good of a time and gets rowdy and acts like an idiot. Granted I only work 2 to 3 nights a week. People who dance full-time, especially during the day, have a whole different kind of crowd to deal with. But customers are generally all the same, just looking for something to distract them from life for a while. Feels like a lifetime ago that I danced. My husband and I go together now every once in a while to get a private dance for a while and it's way more fun being on the other side. Depends on the person. I've had stalkers follow me home. Creeps who tried to get violent with me at work. People who pissed me off. I've also met some really wonderful people I'm fine with calling my friends. I just had a baby and invited 2 ex-customers to my baby shower in June. Edit, holy cow, this is my highest rated comment ever. Thanks for all of the well wishes and replies, everyone. You all brightened up my afternoon. Ex-stripper here. Most of them were cool. We had one old guy named Cummer Steve that would get dances from the new girls and whip his dick out and jizz in their hair. He always had $300 in his wallet that he would head over before they made him leave. Occasionally a douchebag would come in but they got handled pretty quickly. I once had a guy hold up a $5 bill and ask what he could get for that. I cheerfully snatched it out of his hand and told him that he could watch my ass as I walked away. Edited for more context as some people are super riled up about the $5. This guy grabbed my ass as I walked by. I suspect it wasn't the first time he'd done it. I shoved his hand away from my body and told him that if he wanted a dance, they started at $10. He then held up the $5 and asked what he could get for that. His options at that point were pretty much get punched in the dick by someone, curb stomped on his way out by the guys at the door, or lose $5. I think his friends were relieved as he had been a total asshole all night and he behaved himself after that and no one got kicked out. I hope they like what I'm doing and that they spend a lot of money on me and we have a good time. Removed. I hope I'm not stealing the question since I was just a server at a boobs and wings place, which a lot of people, myself included, sort of consider junior level stripping. Same as most of the other answers here in that most everyone was cool, a few jerks here and there. But what struck me was how many older, lonely, divorced, widowed or single guys desperately needed to be around female energy. They were also sweet, polite, courteous and more often than not generous, if they could afford it. Something that was fun too. I always got the impression they came to the place because it was there. We could have been selling ice cream wearing 50s housewife attire and they still would have showed up. It wasn't about the skipping clothing at all to these guys, just the chance to be around women who knew their name, their job, their story, etc. It always made me very happy we were there, but sad that society seems so disconnected that we were maybe the only place they felt comfortable going where they wouldn't be judged for what was simply a human need to be around other people of the opposite sex in a non-sexual way. My girlfriend used to be a stripper. From what she's told me, as long as you're respectful and polite, they aren't thinking much about you at all. More likely to be thinking about what they're gonna have for dinner later. XBL stripper here. Edit. I misunderstood the question and erased what I originally wrote. Excuse me. The customers? It depends. In general, I saw a lot of lonely people. I never felt too bad for them because dancing is a humbling experience. I mean, after all, I'm the one dancing for money. I don't think I ever looked down on them either. Also saw a lot of creepy people. When I first started dancing, other dancers would help me out in situations with the creepier customers. I had an older gentleman who you could say stalked me for a bit. My first interaction with him was holding his hand while I danced and he put money in my G-string. A coworker of mine grabbed my hand and pulled me away. He would also walk me out to my ride because he used to wait outside and proposition me for further activities. I always declined. Creepy people come in all forms. I think the worst ones are the good-looking customers that know they are good-looking and they have a lot of money so they think they can get away with anything. I've lost some considerable size tips from telling people like that to fuck off. Edit 2, I'd also have to mention I did the whole thing about an hour away from where I grew up. I always had this funny thought in the back of my head, like what if my friends and classmates saw me now? Was a fun industry, glad I'm out. Strippers for bucks parties or strippers in clubs? Strippers at bucks parties don't usually hang around long enough, 20 to 30 minutes max, so interaction with guys is limited to just during the show. You mainly hear guys in clubs more so want to chat because they are either lonely, like the attention briefly, or become regulars and make friends with the girls. What strippers really think is about the money. At every job you go to there is always the same personalities, they just look different. You have the arrogant guy, the nice guy, the shy guy, the funny insecure guy, the drug addict, the alcoholic, the drunk touchy guy, the guy who thinks is super good looking and you should want him, the narcissist. It's more so about the different roles the stripper can take on when working for all of the above guys. Counselor, best friend, cleaning lady for when he spills his drink, the comedian to make them laugh, security guard for other girls, the dominatrix because they want to be playfully hurt in some way. The list goes on. The more you spend stripping, you more learn about social psychology. I've dated like 4 strippers, some for a few years. I think their opinions were mostly that the dudes were chill. There were that he tried to shove his finger in my pussy so I broke at nights, that he got a champagne room for 3 hours with 3 girls and fell asleep so we got drunk type nights. Indian dudes seemed to do the weirdest shit. A couple dudes just got naked in the lap dance booth or champagne room and got kicked out. One, my girlfriend said she left for less than a minute to check in with the bouncer and returned and the dude was naked and had nicely folded his clothes next to him. Weirdly sweet but horrifying. They threw him out naked. The thing I noticed though is that after a few years most of them really started to low-key hate men. It's just generally they get exposed to men continually at their worst or most horny. I think it ended up being toxic. About as much as I've thought about the people I interact with in any other service job. Sometimes guys seem lonely or delusional and that can be hard to deal with, but otherwise as long as you aren't smelly, prejudiced, pushy or wearing sweatpants you're good with me. Former stripper. I absolutely loved working with guys who were nice and respected my time and boundaries. They truly make the job fun and I would show my appreciation by making the dance a little wilder. If a guy would try and talk to me forever and not get a dance, I was offended. I always said my conversation was priceless and they should be paying me double just to talk. Or try and get me to see him outside without spending money. If a guy spent a lot on me I wouldn't mind meeting him for a drink after work to spend some time talking, or try and grab at me. I would truly look down on him. I had guys who were straight up abusive a few times and that's not fun. I had guys that were into haggling as a sexual kink and that was shitty. I hated it when they'd try and get a 2 for a discount. Like dude, I'm a hot chick taking my clothes off between your legs, please don't insult me by saying 20 bucks is too much for the privilege. My favorite customers were the ones that wanted to have actual fun. One guy ordered us a pizza and taught me karate moves. One guy just wanted to smoke weed and play Mario 3 on a Game Boy. One guy would pay me to tell jokes on stage. I had a guy in a wheelchair just wanted to have some wild chicks show him a good time. They stand out to me all this Tim. Me later because they made the job fun and joyful. Mostly it was depressing creeps, but there were some real sweethearts in there and I still think of them with affection. I dated a stripper for a while. No, we didn't meet at the club. We were 18 and she looked super young. She liked some of her regulars, but she would often get married guys in there and she absolutely hated them. Not that she wouldn't take their money, because she wanted to just have fun and not worry about ruining people's marriages. She also disliked the people that were old enough to be her dad because there were a lot of old creepy people who would proceed to show her pictures of their kids who were around her same age. In general though, as long as people tipped well and didn't make things awkward, she seemed to really enjoy most of her clients. Also, never ask your stripper out, she probably doesn't like you. And also don't propose to them because that makes it super awkward. They're just people, no one proposes to cute girls out of the blue. There's no way to handle that situation that ends well. I used to have a girlfriend who was a stripper, and sometimes I'd visit her at work and hang out with her and her coworker buddies when it was slow. One time when we were doing this, another stripper sat down with us and said, "Cool, I just got 10 straight lap dances with Bob." I asked, "Which one is Bob?" No one said anything, then one of the girls giggled. My girlfriend said, Jeremy, they're all Bob." As a male, I asked a stripper this same question. She said it's just a job. It's their fantasy and they pay for it. Some of these guys are lonely. Some have wives/girlfriends at home who don't give them the attention we give them in a 5-minute lap dance in 5 months. Then you have all the others in between. It just depends on how they behave. Wanting to have a good time and be around nice, pretty girls and see some titties is perfectly normal to me. What makes me not like them is when they don't understand what I'm there for. Customers who understand that I'm providing a fantasy experience in exchange for money are the best. I don't mind if they want to flirt, talk dirty, or squeeze as long as they stay respectful/playful and are paying me accordingly. Customers who think they can do or say whatever they want to me without tipping or because they threw a couple ones at me are the ones I don't like. And the customers who think just because they're giving me money I no longer have boundaries. If you're not tipping, or only tipping a little, don't try to grab me when I walk by, don't make nasty comments to me, don't sit at the stage and stare all night and only tip $1. And even if you are spending money on me, there are things that I am and am not okay with you doing, which I will happily explain if you ask before you try it. And don't waste our time. We are there to make money, so if a dancer sits and starts talking to you and you're not planning to get a dance, tell her that. Just give her a couple dollars for the conversation and politely say you're not interested. Don't let us sit the air trying to hustle you if you know you're broke. When customers are respectful and having fun, I have fun. When they're gross, rude or broke, I don't. I think it depends. I see all of the guys as potential for money. If you're rude to me or if you sit at the bar and don't tip, then I think poorly of you. A girl, went to a strip bar one time with a friend's bachelor party. The only ladies' bathroom was back with the girls. I went back there and it was hilarious. They were shit-talking all of the customers, and just let me join right in. They were a blast. I had so much fun the rest of the night. Removed. Years ago, when I was made my rounds in the clubs, I heard several girls refer to regulars as PLs, as in pathetic losers. It depends what vibe they are giving off when they watch you. Former dancer. Not personally a stripper, but I had a good friend that was a stripper, and since the club she worked at had a great lunch buffet, I'd go and visit her often. She would hang out at my table between sets and after a while a lot of the others would as well. A lot of the conversations would turn to their opinions of the men that came in. Yow. That really turned me off from going to clubs. They basically thought of the guys as stupid cash machines, and would laugh at the ones they would get to pay their rent/car payments/etc. when they wouldn't do anything, i.e. they would show them some affection and talk to them outside of the club, but wouldn't have any sexual interactions. I danced at a biker stripper bar, where most of the girls looked like Suicide Girls models, covered in tattoos, piercings. We're dancing to music like Avenged Sevenfold. You get the picture. About 3 years ago. Most of the customers were older bikers, but we were near a college town, so lots of younger kids would come in too. I was younger than pretty much everyone that came in or worked there. I was in college, and I wasn't even old enough to drink yet. I don't think there's one uniform type of person that visits a strip club. I've met lonely, angry men that come in seeking a therapy appointment with a side of lap dance and affection, because that's what they're lacking in life. Other assholes come in and watch the stage the entire time and don't tip, just keep ordering drinks. Those guys suck. The only people that I was immediately wary of were women at the club, visiting with their boyfriends, because they would often get jealous very easily, or with a group of bachelorettes, trying to get on stage and make the show about themselves. I had a few great regulars, some who weren't too bad to talk to, but there were the fair share of assholes, people who tried to steal their money back after tipping you, people who point out your insecurities or call you names, people who try to op a feel where they know they aren't allowed to, etc. Most of the people there are just coming for a good time. You get your occasional creeps who you're giving a lap dance to and they flat out try to shove their hands down your front, but it's all fine and dandy. There's always a bodyguard just around the corner. The one thing I love about working at my local strip club is the younger ones who are always so shy and timid. I was giving a lap dance to one boy with the cutest little face and he didn't know he was allowed to touch us everywhere besides the couchoir and asshole. So when I took his hands and set them on my ass, he started freaking out a little bit by stuttering and saying stuff like, "Is this allowed? And I don't know about this." He became a regular after a while of showing up with his friends, and he always smiles at me. I worked mostly weeknights, so I didn't get a lot of groups of friends or partiers. I worked the late shift, so 7 or 8 until maybe 2 a.m. 2 to 3 nights a week. Years ago. I feel bad saying this, but I thought most of my customers I gave lap dances to were kind of pathetic and sad. They were mostly married, middle-aged or older, mostly professional but some working class, normal guys who were lonely and wanted to feel special / that spark, just feel good. It made them feel good to have a pretty half-naked girl act like she liked them and wanted them and like she was trying to seduce them. I got paid to sit and talk and drink with these guys, not just ads. They would literally pay me to keep sitting at their table and drink and talk to them. Many told me how they had dead bedrooms or just weren't close to their wives at all anymore. A lot of them told me they felt a little weird because they had kids my age. They loved having a pretty young girl sit at their table and spend time with them and pay attention to them. They really appreciated intelligent conversation on a variety of topics. I thought it was sad that all these guys were happy to pay me money to just sit, talk, drink, and dance around, and it seemed like they believed that I actually wanted them. But now that I'm older myself, I just look back and see lonely guys who are trying to get needs met in a poor way. Looking back, I also feel really bad for their wives. Then there were the straight-up pros who tried their hardest to pay you to go sleep with them and were super persistent about it. Those guys were fucking annoying and gross. I felt like those guys were even more stupid and gullible to think that just because I'm sticking my crotch in your face for money means I want your actual dick anywhere near me. We didn't get too many jerks as customers because the bouncers were great and would immediately throw someone out if we had a problem. Ah yes, something I can answer in depth. I've danced for 9 years at various clubs from nice to May. Guys who sit at the bar and mind their own business are generally a pretty good target unless they are regulars who never do jack shit. Regulars who never spend could get hit by a car and I wouldn't help. They are often rude, prey on new girls, and mostly, waste everyone's time. Guys who come in and don't tip, buy dances, or even buy us a drink, and or act like they are too good are also fucking punk-ass bitches. People who sit around on their phones are rude as shit. If you sit at the tip rail on your phone, I want to kick your phone out of your hand so bad you don't even know. I'm up here topless, performing for your entertainment. Go to Hooters if you want to play Heroes and Castles on your phone and have a beer FFS. Guys who are painfully nerdy and shy are my favorites. I keep a few polyhedral dice in my purse as a token of solidarity. I can smell that new board game smell across the room, through the stale beer and cotton candy perfume. Good old boys are going to be perfect gentlemen when sober, but will likely get drunk and commit the worst acts against you. Blue-collar workers are often paid cash daily. That guy covered in paint and concrete will make my day. They? Why, just wanted to cool off with a beer and feel special. New girls and fake swingers are annoying AF. Keep your girlfriend out of the club. She's making a fool of herself by trying to crawl on stage, giving you the shittiest lap dance, and these women always do shit like groping us without asking or being really rough because I'm a girl too. Don't fucking touch me. Becky. Women who come in to try to show us up are bottom of the barrel creatures. Go back to your suburbanite nightclub and order your Ciroc pineapple there, okay? Actually, gay and bi women are a treat. Performing for a woman who is legitimately interested in me is nice because it provides variety. Traveling businessmen are an assorted bunch. They have good paying jobs, are lonely, likely very educated or savvy, and just want companionship. I spend a lot of time with these guys. Weirdos. I mean real weirdos. The guys that still live at home and are spending their parents' money, not because they are rich but because they are so weird / off they can't hold down a job. These are the guys that I feel the worst about. Like, Plaza, don't come in here. You're wasting your parents' money and asking me to do oddly specific shit. Have some fucking tact. The gangbangers. Ugh, these guys just suck. They are emotional, temperamental, and a fucking risk all around. The illegal activity guys. These are the guys with the blow, the guys that constantly try to fuck girls, the guys that pull their dicks out on you, the guys that try to get girls in their game. They are pimps. These are the guys that could also get hit by a car and I wouldn't help. Dealers, pimps, rapists, Johns, GTFO. So yeah, I think that's most everyone. Edit. Thanks for the silver and for the gold. You tipped a stripper via Reddit, so you can check that off your fuck it list. Edit 2. I also have a few other stripper adventure stories and rants on this account close to the beginning of the account's existence if you need more stripper stories in your life. Edit 3. Thank you for platinum. I'm not sure what to do with all these awards, but I'm glad that my take on running around naked has sparked so many good questions and brought joy to the internet. Ex-stripper at clubs/webcam. Some of the guys were actually pretty hot, but I made a rule not to contact them again. A very sad day was when a guy I knew walked in. That was embarrassing. I drove girls for a little while, dancers for private parties. Every girl is different, of course, but even more true is that every interaction with every customer is different. Just because she liked you once, or didn't like you once, doesn't mean that dynamic can't change. But it rarely would for the customers that weren't polite, even if they were generous. Sometimes I liked them as people, and most of the time I saw them as a money sign. Had a friend who stripped for a while, and she said the worst thing about were the gents who would practically beg for sexual favors. She's had to have men escorted out more times than she could remember because of it. One guy she watched even get arrested because he was so angry he was told no. He grabbed her, put her on the ground, and then hit her. On mobile, so please excuse my horrible format and possible autocorrect mistakes. Former stripper here. I danced from 19 to about 27. Most of the guys coming into the clubs were just there for a good time. These guys wanted to drink, laugh, and waste money. Harmless fun, except for their wallets, winking face. Then you get the lonely guys. This is a whole different animal. They are there because they pay women for company and friendship. Someone to listen to their stories, and yeah, some of them wanted dances, but many of them paid me hundreds of dollars to sit and chat for an hour. To really listen to their problems and what is happening in their lives. These men usually are divorced, widows, or bachelors well past their prime. With nobody at home, save for a dog or roommate. The regulars are a different crowd, typically older men dressed nicely but not overly so. They walked straight to VIP as their preferred waitress scurried off to fetch them their usual drink and dancer combo. You knew which ones liked you, who would buy a dance from you, and who would just get you a drink. All in all, I don't judge the men who paid my bills for the majority of my adult life so far. They have been all different kinds of people. Yes, some were not good humans, some stank, some were rude and others handsy, but many were funny, generous, and just wanted to forget real life for a moment. Ex-stripper, the guys who behaved, were awesome, and my favorite customers. The guys who came in, and thought that by paying me, I owed them, were the worst. I had customers who believed that because they paid me for a lap dance it meant they could touch me in the non-safe zones, or because someone tipped me, I would go to their hotel rooms. Just because I'm a dancer, doesn't mean I'm a toy. I'm a human being with thoughts, emotions, and my own reasonings for being there. If you treat us well, we will do the same. Treat us like shit and we will tell all of the other girls, and you'll be avoided like the plague. Burlesque dancer here. I do both ticketed shows and tip-based shows. At ticketed shows, we often get screwed by the producer. We learn quickly to be picky, but people have already paid a $10 to $30 ticket for general admission and more if they have a VIP table. In both tip and ticketed shows, audience members often forget that we live on tips. But at those shows, we either get people who can barely afford the ticket and their drinks, or we get ballers who throw $20 ass. There are assholes and rad people in both. Rad people appreciate the show, are fans of the performers, or are in the community. Assholes think we're moving props, have a bedroom upstairs, or are going to get people after the show for a tip or buy us a drink. Most of these answers are very Eurocentric, but the experience of a male stripper who dances exclusively for men is vastly different. For starters, a lot of the strippers at gay strip clubs are straight guys. I know everybody wants to insist that they must secretly be gay or bi, but I assure you, they're not. A job is a job, and if you are comfortable in your sexuality and you don't put value judgments on sex work in general, it can be extremely profitable work. Honestly, People seem fine with a day laborer getting picked up outside of Home Depot at 5 a.m. to go work a 12-hour day breaking his back and muscles for $5 an hour, but they all put value judgments on rubbing your dick up against a dude for $100 cash for 5 minutes of your time. That seems twisted and backwards to me. But to that end, unlike your somewhat typical men dancing for women scene, which has that Chippendales/Thunder from Down Under feel, choreographed dancing with flashy costumes and G-strings on, dancing at a gay strip club isn't really dancing, or stripping, at all. You basically come out on stage, and you're already either totally naked, in socks and sneakers, or you're in underwear that comes off almost immediately. From there it's basically standing in place or walking up and down the bar/runway jacking your cock off non-stop. A lot of guys literally take a break just to go backstage and shoot a load in the toilet before going back out. Or the other side of the coin is that you can't keep it up, so you use a penis pump and tie a piece of rubber band around the base of your dick to stay hard. As for the specific question of the op, though, I would have to say that for the most part we think of our customers as customers. The weird part is that there is a major fetishization within gay men's culture of turning straight guys. So whereas most strippers have to engage enough to keep clients putting money in their socks or thong or whatever, in this scenario there's the added seduction of teasing the gay men into thinking that maybe, just maybe, if they give you enough money you will suddenly actually desire to have sex with them. I will say that in my experience/opinion, there is a lot more straight-up prostitution going on in gay strip clubs. A lot of guys will gladly dance in a secluded corner and let a guy jack them off for a few minutes, never to completion, at least not out in public, for $50. And for $100, they will probably sneak you backstage or into the restroom and let you blow them. The funny thing is it is almost always the straight guys who are willing to do this. The openly gay dancers tend to be a lot less willing to go there. But again, by and large the people in the audience are just horny men looking for a thrill and to fantasize that you're going to do way more than you're probably willing to do. Everyone is cognizant of that, and it is what it is. My ex-girlfriend got out of stripping. On top of working, the shadiness of stripping means that even the place they work they don't technically work for, in a place that was constantly pressuring her to basically be a cheap whore, the people that weren't looking for blowjobs generally, in her words, regarded her as a piece of meat. She lied to herself for a while that she was a stripper for the art of being able to dance professionally, but the objectification and management that constantly harassed her to service private room clients tore that illusion away from her. I have been to only one strip club, fairly recent. In Atlantic City, New Jersey I saw dudes basically wadding up $1 bills and throwing them. Warning, this content may be upsetting or disturbing to some audiences. Women are much more shallow in terms of physical appearances than men are. 13 unpopular opinions of Reddit. People who think the Earth would be better off without humans are full of it. They go around saying they are fine with the human race dying out. But if you ask if they'd be okay with an extinction-level event happening right now, I'm wondering if they'd be as okay with it. My reasoning for this is that there's a big difference between being okay with something happening to people in the future, aka not you, and being okay with something happening to people in the present, aka not you. Women who think men are immature for playing video games, are immature and shallow. My aunt spends up to $35 on essential oils, my other aunt spends an excess amount of money on Norwex rags, my sister spends hundreds of dollars on makeup, oils, rags, and pretty me-up powder. Video games cost from $0 to $60 generally, and can be enjoyed with others with countless hours to be spent. Which is the best value? Video games are a respectable media nowadays. Ring Fit Adventure is a great way to get in shape. Action RPGs and puzzle games enhance problem solving and critical thinking, and fighting games are just as strategic if not more strategic than a game of chess. Also the argument that video games are a waste of time, I hope that you cancel your Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, and cable. Since while I am solving puzzles and learning strategies for defeating a boss in different video games, you're sitting on the couch doing nothing but watching events play out. I'm tired of seeing people who disagree with others politically, always call the other side stupid or uneducated. I constantly see conservatives calling liberals stupid and a cancer to society, and I constantly see liberals calling Trump supporters racist and uneducated. Based off my experience, over half the people who support each side actually have genuine reasons for doing so, and do a good amount of research on their politics. I'm a conservative, but I have a good amount of liberal friends and we rarely ever talk about politics, and when we do it's productive and not a yelling match, and I wish that happened more often. Circumcision. Taking away the foreskin of the penis should be labeled as a way of genital mutilation and should be illegal. The government should illegalize this method of taking away a man's purpose of life because it makes a man's reproduction success less likely because the skin helps stimulate the head. Takes so much longer to do it. Yeah, it might prevent viruses, but you're taking away a part of a man's manhood and making him less likely to live a normal life. Plus, medical professionals are supposed to give his skin back so it can be putted back on in surgery. Oh. What do I hear? I hear some Jewish people saying that their foreskin has to be removed because it's part of the religion. Oh, sorry. Here's a solution to your religious problem. Go and make an edit in one of your Bibles or whatever so nobody has to take their foreskin away. Just so you know, I don't have my foreskin taken away if wondering. We waste too many resources on dead people. I believe we waste too much time, energy, and resources on people who have died. I fully understand that the death of a loved friend or family member is never easy, and definitely deserves a method for remembrance, honor, and mourning. I still think funerals, wakes, etc. are appropriate following a death. However, I think our traditional process of preparing dead bodies and preserving them in the ground is totally wasteful, unsustainable, and a misuse of energy and resources. The traditional, Western, funeral is thousands of dollars for embalming, a coffin, and a space in the graveyard. Beyond the ceremony, it's flowers, time, etc. It is toxic to the earth, and a waste of resources, to embalm a corpse. Preserving a body is only useful for the living during the open casket funeral. After the funeral, the preservation chemicals are retained in the corpse and slowly dissipate in its coffin. The coffin is a waste. At least wooden coffins eventually, mostly, decompose 6 feet under. But metal coffins infuriate me. Those metal coffins will forever remain mostly intact in the ground. So what? It's a dead body, why do you insist it remain untainted by the dirt it's buried in? That dead body will still fester in that metal capsule. If you're not unearthing it later, why do you care what decomposition that happens to it after you bury it? Honestly, even cremation is a huge waste. It takes an insane amount of energy to fully incinerate a body. And a large amount of carbon is released into the air not just from the body but mostly from the fuel to incinerate the body. Then its carbon ash is just spread around arbitrarily. I believe that it is significantly more natural, sustainable, responsible, and dignified to compost dead bodies and reuse dead bodies, as a general, new traditional practice, not a mandated one, for the use of fertilizing new life. All other living things die and their bodies decompose and feed new fungi, microbial life, plants, and therefore animals. Why should human bodies not also sustain such renewal of life? Personally, I would be much happier knowing that my death would be spent less on crying and more on facilitating new life. Women are much more shallow in terms of physical appearances than men are. As far as I can remember, I've seen women be, on average, much more harsh in terms of choosing either a partner when it comes to physical appearances. Don't get me wrong, even I have preferences, but they don't hinder my outlook on a human who I want to be in a relationship with. Having said that, my wife's beautiful and I lucked out. I haven't thought of it in a long time until a friend of mine at work was talking about how she'd been on a few dates with a guy who I also know pretty well. Over the past few years, she's complained a lot to my wife and I about how she's having a hard time meeting a good guy who's single and stable in his 30s. What blew me away is that she's considering not taking the relationship further because of his height. Apparently, he's too short at 5'10". I was pretty blunt with her and said that height shouldn't be a negating factor if she likes the person and he's good to her. Brought it up to my wife, and even she agrees that women, in general, can be much more shallow. I noticed it more so in my late teens and early 20s when I was dating. I remember a girl wouldn't go out with my friend because he had a small gap between his 2 front teeth, which I barely noticed before he told me that. I can't count how many girls don't go out with guys if they aren't a certain height, weight or hair color. I know that guys do the same, but in my experience, it's not been on the same level. Like I said, I've seen guys do the same thing, but it's been a lot less, especially in my adult years. Vegan options are not automatically healthier. I'm not against eating more veggies, but society has gone crazy. I see my coworkers suffering through digestive issues to be vegan and healthier. I just read this post on Tifu. I tried starting off the new year eating a clean vegan food but found out it makes me fart uncontrollably, which caused me to waste a sick day at work. Look at all the YouTubers who are suffering just until their bodies get used to the vegan diet. This has gotten out of control. Somehow everyone thinks veganism is healthy, but this is insane. Margarine is vegan and it's terrible for you. Bayonne burgers are actually super processed plant matter with additives. People are putting over processed vegan food into their bodies, and then when they suffer from it they just say they need to adjust to it. This is the very opposite of health. This is insanity. If you let your child roam the internet freely and they see something inappropriate or shocking, that's on you as the parent and not us. Nobody gives a rat's butt about what your child may or may not see online when not under your supervision, and the adults amongst us aren't gonna stop behaving a certain way simply because your children are watching. If you let your child roam around a movie theater while you're sitting at the bar and they make their way into an R-rated movie, then that is nobody's fault but your own. The amount of entitled, irresponsible parents who allow their child to roam the internet undeterred and get upset when their child sees a nipple is truly baffling. Instead of calling for sweeping online reforms that nobody wants, or demanding updates to websites that nobody wants, how about you do your jobs as parents and supervise your kids online? We're not your damn babysitters. Superstitious fears over stupid things like the number 13 should not be encouraged. I see this all the time. Buildings don't have a 13th floor because it's bad luck. Airplanes don't have a 13th row because it's bad luck. It's a number. Your apartment isn't going to suddenly catch fire because it's on the 13th floor. The companies who own these buildings and planes should stop appeasing these superstitious idiots by removing the number. The girls in the comment section of an extremely unattractive girl's photo calling her all sorts of endearing things such as beautiful, are not good people, they are actually a-holes. They know good and well that this girl fits absolutely no one's definition of beautiful, yet continue to fill her with false confidence. Does the girl deserve to be berated for her looks? Absolutely not. But lying and telling them they obtained some level of attractiveness is only going to lead to them getting their hopes up. Unconditional love does not exist. Every relationship you have comes with conditions. Fail to meet those conditions and boom, you're a stranger to them and they resent you. Think I'm wrong? There was a post on Am I the A-hole about a woman who was miserable being married to a man who was paralyzed. The guy became paralyzed after pushing her out of the way of a car and in turn became the person to be hit. She stays with him due to obligation and because it's the right thing to do. But she doesn't love her life, or him anymore. Basically because she spends every day living as this guy's personal nurse, and all dreams she had are gone. In a relationship right now? Guess what? They won't stick around if you become dependent on them. Well, they might, but it won't be out of love but obligation. The same thing will happen with your children when you become too old to take care of yourself. They won't want you around, you are work to them. They will place you in a nursing home rather than have you move in with them because they don't enjoy that amount of responsibility. Think I'm wrong? Go to a nursing home and view all the people who made that same decision for their parents. You might think they're evil for it, but it's just human nature. Would you enjoy having to care for grandma every day of your life? Or your boyfriend who is now unable to speak and wipe his own butt? No, you might do it out of obligation, but don't lie and say you'll look forward to it or enjoy it. The world is truly cruel this way. I hate it. I hate that it is like this, but it is. All of your friends are fair weather, and your loved ones will only put up with so much before bailing. The creepiest thing about San Francisco is the lurking drug dealers all over.